Hey everybody, it's Mandy from Travel Forge. Don't mind my pulled collar, my disheveled hair, my no makeup, and my complete newborn baby look. So I have been getting a zillion questions about selling bread, selling baked goods, doing things from your home. Obviously everybody, especially if you have little kids, always looking for ways to make some extra money, but still be able to be home with your kids because daycare is just crazy. So I didn't exactly, so I started getting very serious about learning bread over a year ago now, I would say. I had been baking and dabbling in this and that, but I really got serious about learning about gluten development and all these kinds of things, probably the end of last summer. And I loved it. Playing with dough is so fun. And it was getting to the point where I was really making more than my family could conceivably eat. So we finished up our limited food establishment license for Pennsylvania back in June. It's now November. So we've been in this about 5-ish months. When we got our limited food establishment, I was in the, I must have been in the late 20s of pregnancy with Lemon. So I wasn't really sure what that was going to look like because obviously I wasn't sure how long I was going to, how long could I be on my feet for many hours a day and things like that. So I baked up until week 37. And then at week 37, I wasn't having it anymore. But what I want to talk to you about today is how you can make money with a micro bakery from home and give you some of the nit and grit about being a limited food establishment in Pennsylvania. Because when I looked into this a couple years ago, when we lived at our old house, it was very intimidating. I didn't know where to start. It seemed really scary, all of that. And I'm in several cottage bakery groups, and this is a common question. The rules vary from state to state. I would safely say widely vary from state to state. So if you're not in Pennsylvania, the how to make money with your micro bakery part can probably still apply to you. The specific rules about our state maybe doesn't apply to you, but maybe still some things to consider. So I'll give you the nit and grit on the LFEs, as they're called, and then we'll talk about how to make money from it. So this is basically, my limited food establishment, our humble little kitchen with our little single stove. I have my big Hobart mixer over here, which we got maybe a month ago. And then I have my grain mill on the counter, our KitchenAid, the things that I pretty much use for the micro bakery. Basically what we had to do is I had to get permission from the township that said, yes, you can run this micro bakery from here. You can run this limited food establishment from here. I had to have a letter from my township saying that my septic is kind of up to date, inspected, I'm not overflowing poo into the yard, that kind of thing. That can be very difficult or very easy depending on your township, how well your township is manned, things like that. I know that I've talked to people, especially it seems to be closer to really heavily populated areas in Pennsylvania where they can't have limited food establishments at all. If you're in that boat and you really want to do this, you're not from home per se, but you could talk to a local church, local fire department, a community center, somebody that would have a licensed kitchen that maybe you can rent or, work out, whatever that is. I don't know all the nit and grit on how that works as far as applying to the state. You need to get in touch with the Department of Ag and get the details. So PA Department of Ag is the one that oversees all of this. Our girl, I think she told me she does 7 counties in Pennsylvania, which is just crazy. And I just assumed that she probably just did little people like me, little old moms in their kitchens. No, she's doing restaurants and anything that needs breweries, anything that needs inspected, she's handling, which is just mind blowing to me. Times 7 counties, okay, our county's not that big and it's not crazy populated or anything, but that seems like a lot. Anyway. So get in touch with the Department of Ag, find out who your person is, your inspector is for your area. Hopefully they're very friendly. Ours is super friendly. She's always willing to answer my questions, and I have sent her probably 500 emails. When I started this process, I called the Department of Ag in Harrisburg, our state capital, and they said, okay, we'll get you in touch with your local person she sent me an email with the application, which you can also access online, but I didn't know what the first step was. And then you start filling out the application. So the application is both a packet of info and the actual application. The application, in my opinion, is not super comprehensive. Like I said, I've sent my girl a million questions because I felt like there was a lot of things not answered in the packet. For instance, I wanted to sell freeze-dried food, powders and things, and there is all these hoops you have to jump through for freeze-dried food. Well, freeze-dried food wasn't even addressed in this packet, so until I asked all the questions, I didn't even know. You have to like get everything tested for dryness, which is expensive. I was going to get some jams tested, and it was going to be like $100 a pop to get jam, one flavor, and you have to get every flavor tested. So anyway, if like I wanted to do freeze-dried food, but you have to get it all tested for dryness. You have to get like an FDA number and USDA, depending on what it is. It was very complicated and maybe something we would explore down the road, but not something I was exploring with a newborn coming. So if you want to go down that route, just know that there are some other little things that you're going to need to, boxes you need to check before you can do that kind of stuff. So we talked about jerky, but there's all these rules for that. Like USDA, again, gets involved and you have like a number and all this other silliness. So I wasn't getting into that either. So we decided that we were going to stick to shelf-stable baked goods, breads, cinnamon rolls, candies, things like that. Things that don't need to go in the fridge. So if it needs to live in the fridge, then you can't do it. For instance, if you want to sell cinnamon rolls, it can't have cream cheese in it. It's not shelf stable. If you got your icing tested and it passed the, what do they call it? Water solids test or something. I haven't gone down the water testing, that path yet. So this is just real basic beginner's info. But that's what you'd have to do. So like you'd need to call a local lab that could like test this stuff and get that done. So anyway, everything has to be shelf stable, and we just decided like these things that need testing, I don't have the capacity for that right now. So get approval from your township, get approval on your septic. Your water needs to be tested if it's not city water. So like if you have city water, like that, all that stuff's already on file. If you have like normal water, so like you have a well or like ours is spring fed or whatever. And I was nervous. I thought spring fed might like disqualify us right out of the gate, but we had it tested and it's all good. It was like $40. It wasn't a big deal. We took it to our local water testing place. Yes. So I took those, we took those over to the local water testing place. Like the next day I got a text, you're good to go. Here's your paper. Have a nice day. So that was fantastic. So you have to do those three things. Those are like the three top, like, I don't want to say annoying things, but the things where you have to like involve other people so that you can check the boxes. So you have to do all that. And then basically as far as your kitchen goes, you don't have to have a separate kitchen. However, you can't have pets in your house. So like if you have a basement that you're going to convert into a kitchen and the dog or cat or whatever never goes downstairs, never is in the basement, never in that kitchen, doesn't ever come through that door, that could work. We don't have a dog in our house. Our dog is our livestock guardian dog. He lives outside. So this was a non-issue. We don't have pets in the house. That's the biggest holdup I see when I see a lot of people chatting about this in cottage bakery groups is they have a pet and they're not sure how to get around that. And unfortunately, it would be building something separate or like I mentioned earlier, talking to a senior center, community center, church, firehouse, whatever, and figuring out how you can make that work for you. So no pets is like the biggest thing and the biggest disqualifier I feel like come across in conversations often. When they come, they will check the temp of your fridge. If you're keeping anything in a freezer, like we had like frozen cheddar cheese, like for bread and things. So she checked the temp of the freezer. She checked the temp of the water. And then that was kind of it. Like it was not stressful at all. I will say, ask questions before your inspection. So I have several friends that have micro bakeries or something similar, limited food establishments in Pennsylvania, in other counties or other kinds of regions. And they had to, for instance, have a thermometer in their fridge. Our girl didn't ask for that. It's not in the application, but I know that some people, their inspectors want that. Ours didn't ask. She her little temp thing and took the temperature and that was it. So it was super low key. Like basically she sat here with her laptop and she has her little printer so she could print my little paper when we were done. Printed the little paper for us and it was really low key. She like asked a bunch of questions. I was nervous she was gonna like, not that I had anything to hide, but I'm like, oh, is she gonna like pull out every little nook and cranny and make sure there's like no dust or something? And it was not like that at all. You do need to keep your ingredients in a separate spot. So like we have our ingredients that we're using in our Hoosier, so that, you know, you have to kind of figure that out. But, you know, if you have a space for like a separate cabinet or something, that would totally work. And then as far as what comes, like, so let's say your person comes, you get your little paper, you're good to go do your thing. You'll get an inspection in 12 months, and then after that, it'd be every 18 months. I totally, as always, made this out to be this gigantic thing in my head that it was going to be super complicated and hard and terrifying, and it wasn't any of those things. So, on to how to make money from your micro bakery. So I'll touch on a couple things, and then if you guys have more questions about this, like definitely put those in the comments, and you know, I can make a separate video about this or whatever. So basically what we have been doing is, well, we had to modify our system. So prior to baby, when I was pregnant, I would make a menu and I would take orders, and like I'd have a pickup day at our house, and we'd do like 2 pickup days a month where we used to live. So if you're new here, we used to live 2 hours away. We would kind of do sort of a pop-up style at my parents', but it was pre-orders. And that went really well. I was happy we did it that way. It kind of gave us an idea of what people want, helped us work out some kinks and things like that. In this season of newborn, we are going to move away from pre-orders. I love pre-orders because I know it's going to be gone. Like we're not going to be bringing it home. But it definitely puts the pressure on you because if you do pre-orders, and like this summer was brutal, like even with our air on, some days our kitchen was pushing 80. So I would like have stuff that overproofs or like whatever. And you have to account for those things. Like you have to have enough time to redo it. Or like I had a batch this summer and I sold it as an oops loaf. And honestly, I sold all of them and people loved them. It kind of became like a Red Lobster biscuit texture from this cheddar bread or whatever. So sometimes you have to get creative when these things happen. But with the pop-up style, it'll take the pressure off of me that, you know, if I have 10 orders for this and that flops, like I'm stuck. I'm up until 4 o'clock in the morning, like fixing it or redoing it or whatever needs to happen. Because even if you're a seasoned baker, and you know, I wouldn't say, you know, I haven't been out here like doing this for 10 years or anything, you know, but people do have grace with you. That's the other thing. You're always your hardest critic. I'm always my hardest critic. Always, always, always. You know, and my mom and my dad and my husband and my kids are always like, it's fine, it looks fine, it tastes great, you know, that's what people are after. So give yourself some grace. And I am talking to myself also when I say that, because my parents, if they're watching this, which they probably are, they're probably laughing because I never give myself grace. So there's so many ways that you could market your bread, sell your bread. You could do a pop-up in your driveway or at a friend's house. Like if you live kind of remote, you know, like my parents are in a busy neighborhood. We are not. So we're like in the mountains and it's not really, like we live on a busy road for here, but I would not call it a busy road compared to where we came from. So you could do a pop-up at your house. You could take orders. You could use something like Hot Plate to take orders and then have like a porch pickup situation. Again, if you're going to go those routes, make sure you talk to your township, municipality, whatever you have. Make sure you can have a sign in your yard or a little shed for pickups or whatever. Just cover all your bases, because there's nothing more defeating than like you think you get all your ducks in a row and you're all excited. You got all these orders, all these people excited to support you. And then like someone comes in and shoots it down for whatever reason. So just cover your bases with that. The other option is you can like make menus in Canva and then you can sell on Facebook and kind of take pre-orders that way. I, just like with everything else, you know, I had this learning curve with soap. When I started making goat milk soap, you know, I made like 30 cents. I always like to say flavors, cracks me up. But I made like 30 cents and I was like, whew, we need to reel this in a little bit. But it was good. I kind of put those 30 out. I had a feel then after like a year what people really, really loved. So now I have like 12 or 15 like signature scents. And then seasonally, I'll rotate out like 2 or 3 different things. Like over the summer, I did citrus soap and citrus shampoo and like loofah soap. And then for fall, I did vanilla cardamom and pumpkin spice. You know, and you could do the same thing with your bakery. You could have 3 signature things and you have some seasonal stuff. You could have like a base thing and there's several flavors. So you're gonna have to figure out what's gonna work in your season of life with your setup and your situation. And you might put some things out there and like it seems like crickets because, you know, you really need to get people familiar. People knew that I was baking. Like I share, probably overshare, you know, on social media pretty much every day. People always know what's baking in my kitchen or what we're cooking or what animal was just born or, you know, what baby was just born. Like people always know those details. And I'm not saying you have to be like, if you're a private person and that's not your gig, you're going to have to figure out how are people going to get to know you. We have yard signs. I'll get them for you. Bud and I made yard signs like this. With our cricket, we got some yard sign blanks on Amazon and made these with our cricket and they're perfect. We put them in our front yard. We talked to our township. They said, sure, no problem. And it's been working great. We have one out there for KitchenAid repair. And we've had all kinds of people stop in from the community like, hey, here's my KitchenAid. You know, we had 3 people last week drop their KitchenAid off just because they saw the sign in the yard. So don't discount something that seems like small and insignificant, like a yard sign you made with your cricket. Don't be intimidated. You don't have to have like this industrial, like that's a goal. We want a commercial kitchen. That's a big goal for us down the road. We'd love to convert our garage into a commercial kitchen, but obviously that's expensive. So start small. You know, I didn't start with the Hobart mixer. We had one big KitchenAid. Zad bought me a cheap one on Marketplace that wasn't working and fixed it. And then we had 2, so I was running 2 KitchenAids. And that was just getting impossible. So then we found this Hobart for the right price at the right time. And that thing is, wow, amazing. We give yourself grace. You know, I am not the kind of, my mom and my husband tell me this all the time. I need to make cutoffs. Like, okay, you can only make 30 loaves a week or whatever number you decide, you know, and I'm like, oh no, I can do 60. If you need to make a cutoff, make a cutoff. I just always made it happen. That's just my personality. But you need to do what works for you. Keep in mind too, there are some other little rules like things with meat in them can't be wholesaled if it's over like 3%. And like, there's just all these little things. So this is just how I work because we have invested way too much time and money into our life, our homestead, everything, to lose everything over, you know, wholesaling a few pepperoni rolls, you know. Ask your person who, hopefully you have their email and you can communicate easily, or phone number, whatever. Ask them anytime you have a question or something you want to add that's like new enough that you have a little bit of doubt, just ask. The worst thing they can say is no, and then you tweak it or you figure something else out. It's just not worth losing your entire life because you got sued over like a piece of pepperoni bread. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make sense. So one more thing about wholesale. Wholesale is awesome. I mean, if you can find wholesale customers, that's going to take a little bit of time. If you're looking to learn more specifically about wholesale, check out Madera Farms on YouTube. She's also on Instagram and on Facebook. She's also in Pennsylvania. So if you're in Pennsylvania, she could really be like a nice little follow for you. I found her several months ago and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's in Pennsylvania. This is so exciting. And I've chatted with her a few times and she has a rockin' sourdough micro bakery, and she converted her basement into a kitchen and she's killing it. So she's another great follow if you're looking for micro bakery advice. What inspired this video was that I have a friend who also does baking out of her home. And there was a mom in a group, a local moms group, and was like, is the market too saturated with sourdough? And my friend and I both commented and were like, there's always room in the market. Like, people don't want to travel forever to go get their bread. There is a need. People want homemade fresh bread. We recently started selling fresh milled wheat bread and people love it. They understand that it's not going to be like store-bought white bread, but that's not what they want because they want to feel better. We'll talk about fresh meal in another video, but figure out what the need is in your area, whether that's yeasted breads, white breads, wheat breads, sourdough breads, cinnamon rolls. Figure out what the need is. Figure that out and then rock on, like go with it. So in that group, this girl was just nervous that maybe there was already too much competition. And my friend and I were both like, there's plenty of room in the market. Go for your dreams, do what you want to do, be home with your kids, and rock it. So that's what I have to say about that today. If you guys have any questions, as always, let me know. We'll see you next time.